I don't know how I did that because no, a hamburger, a pound, it just sits in the palm of your hand. And that makes about maybe 1.5 hamburgers.
Well, they were all smaller back then too.
Yeah, but a family though. I mean, I don't even think of starting with a pound.
I'm with you.
Yes.
All right. Do you remember when Kim was born?
Oh yes.
Tell me about that.
Um,
Because I mean, now you're not in the city. Now you're out there in the country.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little bit different giving birth in Meadville than giving birth down there in Lamar, Larimer, right?
yeah. Well, Ronnie took me in like called her doctor was Dr. Pooks, and that's a French name. I always thought that was but anyhow we got to the hospital and all that, and then when she turned out to be a girl, and well, after 2 boys, and she was quite welcomed, and she was kind of cute, and all thrilled, Then when I got pregnant with Carrie, and then she turned out to be a girl, I knew because if Kim, she'd be a spoiled brat, you know what I mean? You need something like to bounce off of, so I had in my mind 2 boys, 2 girls. And it was better than having a boy, and a girl because they were in the same category, you know what I mean?
What was your thought when you heard that Kim was a girl?
Ronnie says to me, your dad will be so happy because Ronnie wanted me to have a girl for my dad's because in his life, Mary is his mother's name. His wife's name was Mary. Mary Ann, Mary Jean, everybody, there were so many Marys. And when I had the Kim and all that, that's the only person, I named them. She was the only one that Ronnie said, well, if it's a little girl, let's call her Mary. Well, at that time, Mary Jones. And I do like Kimberly, and then I had 2 K's before that, and Kimberly would fit in. So I came up, and then being Scotch, Mary Kay and all that, and so, and the last name is Mackey, so Mary Kim is more in my line, and yeah, Dad, they never really expressed themselves that much. People back then people are friendly now. They tell more of their feelings or their life more than, which is nice. I like it though, because I feel like, well, in some cases I'm normal. Some cases.
What did Ronnie think? So it's that, actually, and I was going to ask you this. It sounds like Ronnie was a pretty good son-in-law. Like he was always trying to please your parents.
Oh, yes. Yes. Mother, when she would come up, she liked good butter, and then we get a 6-pack for Dad, and we always had, and chip-chopped ham, and when he knew Mom and Dad were coming, that he would, and like with Rocky, when the kids were coming home and all that, he'd go out and buy milk. I never have to worry about that,
So let's talk about life with 4 kids. Was it rough for you and Ronnie? Or did he have a good job? It was pretty normal?
Well, he had I took $18 for each week for our groceries. And he'd walk behind me pushing the cart. And when I put something in, he'd mark it down and he'd let me know, hey, Nance, we're getting pretty close. I said, okay. And if I had meat, potatoes, and vegetables, puddings and jellos and stuff like that would have to wait until next pay, or whatever. So it wasn't easy because money I've always been conscious of money. Mother worked at the railroad during the war only, and when she get her pay, and I would. She'd give it to me to take down to Irwin from high school. We have an hour for lunch. I could walk down to Irwin and deposit the money, and all that. And I was so worried about losing that money that I would stick it in my bra. You know what I mean? And then when I would go up after I deposited the money, I would either go back to school, but sometimes I would do it in the evening, and I'd stand in front of the 5 and 10, and they had those big bags of pretzels, something like we can get today, you know, and I every now and then, and I'd tell my mother, I spent $1, Mom, you know, and I felt guilty.
Yeah.
I've always been money
Conscious.
I work my life around money, yes, knowing what money, you know, and so. What was your question?
Well, no. So, I mean, I think you answered it, but like, so your mom worked at the railroad during the war.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did your dad do for a living?
Dad do for living? Westinghouse.
He worked at Westinghouse.
Yeah,
Where did he do at Westinghouse?
East Pittsburgh.
What did he do there?
Oh, what did he do there? He was what they call a roller. Exhaust pipes for different cars. Well, he did it for a lot of the things. They would come out real hot. Let's see. I don't know if it was in the pipe because it seems like it came out. But anyhow, they molded the pipe, and then they put it through what they call the crimper, and it would crimp it into the design for the bottom of to fit the car. It's been a long time ago, but
oh no, that makes sense. So he worked at Westinghouse making exhausts for cars.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was
Okay. All right. So
I never thought of that, but
what was a special treat when you had all 4 kids and you're like, okay, we got a little bit of money. What's a special treat you and Ronnie would do with the kids?
well, around the 4th of July, he would get the time off. But a few times he worked, and I had a little bit of money, and my next door neighbor and I, she had 6 kids, and I had 4 at the end, you know, and we took them to dance and all that. But I would watch catalogs and all that, and we bought a big tent. I paid $450 for it way back then, so it was yes. And
did you get that from Sears and Roebuck?
I
can't.
I think Sears, yes,
Yeah.
because we would.
The catalog.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and I made it put a room for the girls and a room for the boys, you know, because they fight, you know. And then I had like a place where you had like a net, you know, and I put a picnic table in there and fold up benches, you know, and all that. I mean, I had set up there for rain and all that. We could still camp, you know. So, but the thrill
You
of
go
us.
camping with the kids. That would be a big treat.
That's what we did every chance we get. We've been to Slippery Rock. We've been in fact, we went up to Old Bull up there, State Park, and you had to go through the creek with your car. I got a picture of that one. To get to our campsite, you know, and of course I have to have it pitched right by the window. And Ronnie walked around and all that, and he said, "Hey, Nance, look at this!" And there was 6 trees, separated in a row, and we could put our tent right in the middle. Oh, I love that! I could have lived there forever. You know?
And Ronnie enjoyed that. Ronnie liked going out.
Oh,
and camping and all that
he did. He enjoyed everything that we did with the kids. And that was my life. I don't remember how he felt or how I felt. As long as, you know, the kids, I mean, you get up in the morning, you give them breakfast, you know, and all that, and you wait for the lifesaver to get, lifeguard to get on the bench, you know, and then you could send them down to the water. And that was their life. I mean,
What were Christmases like? Did you guys spend a lot of money? Did Santa come? What were Christmases like when you guys were at the house?
yeah, I kind of like tried to save up money. In fact, I even tried to put the Christmas fund, which never really worked out to the full amount, but it helped, you know. And I would sit up all night doing little scenes under the tree, and then I had the gifts around the big, separated, and I enjoyed working gifts. All that.
Was Ronnie like that? Was Ronnie big in the holidays?
I think he appreciated what I doing with me. Of course, I used to get angry. We would get maybe a half a gallon of wine or maybe a gallon of wine, and we stay up all night. And next thing I know, he'd be sleeping on the couch, and I'd say, "No, you get up out of here and you help me," And we would get to bed right as the time the kids were getting up to come downstairs.
So I've known this about you for a while. We're at a point in your life where we're talking about the story about being in Meadville, roughly like 1958-ish, right? 59 is where we're at in the story of Nancy Rockefeller's life, right?
Okay.
At what point, and I know you're kind of sensitive about this, it's not a bad question, trust me, because whenever we tease you about maybe having a beer or drinking or eating hot dogs, when do you think that love for beer and hot dogs started?
Money. It was
Money. But how old were you? When you could say, I've loved beer and hot dogs since back when?
Oh, I used to buy, hot dogs used to be 39 cents a pound. I never bought candy, bags of candy, and pop and all that, And hot dogs was something, well, you could eat them out of the refrigerator, you could heat them, you could make chili hot dogs, make cheese, And it just seemed like that was, me, I just like
Would you say that's your favorite food?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, when I went with my aunts and all that to a restaurant or even with Mother, I usually end up ordering a Braunschweiger sandwich because
I love Braunschweiger. I love Braunschweiger.
And if the menu had the prices on it, I never would run up the bill. I don't do that today.
Yep.
If you take me out for dinner, I'll get what I like, only
On the cheaper end.
right.
I understand.
I must have spending money. I just didn't have, my money had a count. I do that today though too, because I get paid once a month, and I do everything on my debit card because I can bring it up on the computer and every penny is told to me. I have it wrote down, So if you ask me where I spend all my money, I can show you, So it's a comfort for me knowing that I've got something in the bank.
So hot dogs, you like the taste of them, and they're cheap.
Not really, and they're not that you can almost buy a chuck roast for a pound as much as you can a hot dog anymore, So, and when I was younger and all that, Mother never bought lunch meat. She called that dog meat. This is my mom's way, And we used to get like a chuck roast, or she used to get a chuck roast or a pork roast, kind of big, and cook it down. We'd have dinner, and then she'd chop it up. And the daddy I either got roast beef or pork or fish, which she didn't cook. She did it on Friday, although my dad didn't, although being Catholic and all that, he told her he didn't care, but because the family, never his family, but he dropped out of the church a long time ago before Mom, before he met Mom. But I don't know why she kept giving him fish when he told him. I didn't understand a lot, so it just kind of like, I went and did my thing. I had my room. I was happy.
Do you have a favorite Christmas from Ronnie's house?
Oh, I have a favorite one from Rockies. This one year we got this beautiful tree. It wasn't a Scotch pine or anything, but it was a hemlock, and it laid. You ever see those, like the dark green with the little green tips on the end and then the little pine cone? And I got a candle. I had candles with clipped on, here and there on that's what I like, you know what I mean? And at his little house over there, we didn't have the living room extended like we do now. And it was right there where I usually put the tree, you know, and Chris was coming home from the service. And I left that up to March. But the thing of it is, we didn't cut it down to 2 days before Christmas. You know what I mean? It lasted, you know.
What year do you think that was, if you had to guess?
Okay. That was the year I think Keith got married to Celine. Because Chris had to come home from Mississippi. I don't know what year. I can tell you when my kids' birthdays are, and most of my grandchildren, but how old they are and what year, I don't know.
All right, so life was going pretty good, and Ronnie was a smoker, right? Did you smoke? Never smoked ever, huh? Wait, what's your favorite beer? I didn't ask you that. All time, what's your favorite beer?
I don't have any favorites. I mean, like if I come to your house and you got a certain beer, I'll drink with you.
There you go. Was Ronnie a drinker?
No.
No, not at all.
No.
Not
He'd go to the bar, but he wasn't a drinker. We kind of got along real fine like that because, in fact, it really never even dawned on us until Dad and Mum were coming up, you know, and Dad wasn't a drinker. He'd come out of work at East Pittsburgh and go over, right, the tavern was right across the street, you know, and he'd have a shot and then a beer chaser. Mm-hmm. But other than that, he never drank, although he liked to go out I saw them a couple times, you know.
All right, so I think it's just about dinner time, so we're going to have to cut this short.
Short?
But because we've got the whole other part of your life to talk about, right?
You want more?
Oh, I did. Is this too much for you?
No.
Do you like doing this?
I don't mind.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to ask you one more question. It's probably not a question you like thinking back fondly of, but tell me about how Ronnie got sick. Tell me about how you found out, how you dealt with it, and then what life was like as a single mom for a while.
Yes, that was trying times. Yes, yeah. I haven't always been overly happy, you know what I mean. But then again, I had 4 kids, and you have to keep life going. You know, I mean. In fact, Chris came down home from one time and told me when he was signing up for the service, and he had to give his story to for on his application, I guess, you know, and he was told, well, you must have had a very good mother, you know, because he told them life, I think he was asked, well, did life change for you then? And Chris said, no, it went on this, you know, because that's, the only problem I had was more or less like I came home one day and I had 4 little kids looking up at me and I didn't know what I could do for them. I mean, because with a high school diploma, you know, and all that, and to get a job I had to go through, I made myself go through competition with 18-year-olders, you know, with those little nuts and bolts and, you know, and all that. And I held my own, boy. You know? But now you asked me about my...
Yeah, so tell me about that. Ronnie comes home one day. Was he getting sick up to that point and said, you know what, I better go to the doctor? Tell me that story.
Yes. He came down one morning to go to work and he says, Nancy, do I look like I'm swollen? Do I look like I'm bigger here than here? You know, or this side? And I said, yep. I said, now you be a He-Man if you get this on... You know, that's how we were. We didn't cry or, you know, over things. We just went into deep thought, you know. Anyhow, as time went on, he had, like, I think the nosebleeds came after. The doctor put him in the hospital and they took a piece of it, I don't know if it was skin or not, but he had, that doesn't have a separation in his his nose or something. Something was gone, you know. And he told Ronnie, don't blow your nose like you used to, you know. And like, because I told the doctor, I said, because he holds one side, you know, and he blew it out. And shortly after that, I don't know if that caused it or if that it was going to happen anyhow. I don't know. But he would call me up from work, and his nose would be bleeding, and it would bleed. And he analyzed. He had books to keep. The color. He worked at Talon, and he was more or less like how to keep the material things like the clips and the ribbon and the paint, all that for zippers, down here, like all over. He had to order, you know what I mean, keep it going. And they always had to work with the color that was coming in for that spring, you know. So he couldn't mess up his books like that, and he couldn't guarantee because it would come on him and it would drip on his work, you know. And then he'd call me, and I'd go in and get him or bring him home. And so many times he would feel real bad, and I'd take him back to the doctors, you know, and he got shots through his arm, and the shot looked like it was that long, you know, and to settle the nerves and all that, and that only worked for a time. Then I took him into the Meadville, well, it was called Spencer Hospital then, for like radiation treatments. And they put a clamp over his shoulder and all that. It looked like a big piece of leather. It was real dark brown and pulled up, you know, and he just there wasn't anything they could do because he had the eating kind and the growing kind. And then he was down in Greenville quite a while and all that, and different times I'd go down, we'd have lunch together, you know, and of course, we had a car that broke down every time. I mean, I take masking tape and fix this car, you know, and all that. Then I had a convertible, which wasn't much better, and I had to tape up the window in the back. I mean, that's a big story all itself, you know. My kids will laugh if they see this. You know?
So when he came down that one morning and says, this side looked bigger than this side, you said you should go to the doctor? What made him eventually go to the doctor?
I think the bleeding.
So his nose started to bleed.
Yes.
Is that because were they connected?
I think the day he got the Dr. Thomas Ryan down in Greenville. He went down there for a biopsy. I was sitting there and I could see the doctor coming up the aisle, and I knew right then. The way he walked, the way his head was down, I knew it wasn't going to be good, you know. And he walked up there and he explained what he did. And I remember looking at him and saying, what do I do now? And he took his arm and patted me on the shoulder, and he said, just take him home and make him as comfortable as you can. So that, you know, and so anyhow, we had parties and we had different things at home. And then this one day, when he looked at me, and I can remember the chair and you know, and all that. And he says, Nancy, I said, yes. He says, I think you're going to have to take me to the hospital. So I took him into the hospital and down to Spencer, and I had to run to the hospital though. If it was a visit, well, I worked nights. And I would stop and get him a milkshake because we had an Isley's down there, and I'd order it. Tell them I'm coming in and pick up that milkshake, you know. And because I figured a little bit of ice cream, a little bit of milk might, you know. You don't give up hope until there's no...
Right, until there's no hope.
Yes. So anyhow, he looked forward to this milkshake, you know.
What kind of milkshake you get?
Well, sometimes chocolate and sometimes I got milk, vanilla, you know, and all that. Just give him a little, and he loved them all, you know. I mean, I think he did just to please me, though.
What kind of ice cream? Or I'm sorry, what kind of cancer did he have?
He had it in the marrow of the bone,
It was bone cancer.
cancer, and he had to eat the growing kind. They explained it to me that at one time in his life, he used to get what we call grip. It's like what you call flu now, and it landed in his lungs and the doctor explained, he says at one time, the mucus and all that broke away, and it floated and lodged on a rib, and then that's how he got it worked into the bone. And then he had also the growing kind up his neck, and all that. And we knew it was only, And the worst part of it was Stale Points that we moved. The reason we moved up there and got that house, all that. Her husband died, and we went to his funeral, or we did this, and people kept saying to Ronnie, how you feel. He says, well, maybe at some time or other I'm going to be like him, and that I kind of walked away because it was easier not to.
Do you remember telling the kids, listen, Dad's not going to be around?
Yes.
Was that a big family meeting? How did that go?
No, it was more or less this kind of casual, sitting when we maybe at the dinner table and all that. I think we just kind of grew up listening to conversations, and all that. But when I would go in and see him and all that, when I'd come home, the kids would run out. Thank God I had kids that listened to me. I could not have done what I did if I didn't have those four. More or less for moral support from them, but they minded me. I mean, if they did anything bad, it never showed up in this world, but they were kids. I know it was there, devilment, but I never had anything that I had to worry about, The only thing I told them, though, was, we have 50 acres here. I want you in this yard when it gets dark. I don't want them roaming around the neighborhood at dark, And they minded, But telling him that, in fact, they would, when I come home, they would run out. This is how I more or less just told them and talking to them, I guess. They would run out and say, how's Dad, Mom? How's Dad? And I said, not too good. I mean, I told them the truth, that no. And this one time I was going to go to work. I worked up just a block away from, he was in the hospital. I took care of older people. And when I stopped in there and all that, during my stay there, his nerves, or something happened, but he started to vibrate, and his leg went down on and I jumped up and pulled, the side rail wasn't on, and I pulled that up, and I went out, and there wasn't any nurse there. It was sisters, actually. I ran up to the station, where the other, it wasn't in my area. She said, well, I don't have that. And I said, you do now. I mean,
yeah, let's go.
And I put my hand on her arm, and I marched her down there, I knew she couldn't do anything. I knew he was in bad shape, but I had to report it And anyhow, she came down and all that, and gave him a shot or something. And then one time I went to visit him, and he looked at me and he says, Nancy, I think it's time for my shot. So I just go out to the nurse and all that, and she says, Nancy, he just had one half an hour ago. I mean, I knew, I could tell it wasn't, they could only go so far.
Do you remember, tell me about when he passed. Were you there?
Yes.
Yeah.
He died when I watched him.
What time of day? Tell me about that moment, and then tell me about going home and having to tell the kids.
It was coming out of work. I believe they were at school. No, he died in August. They'd be home. know. I just know I talked to them. I don't know. We just seem to accept the situation somehow. I don't know. But, yeah, yeah. I came out of work at 7:30, and I went down. So I was there around about 8. I think the kids must have been. Maybe that was always a blur. It's a good thing I had good kids. That's what I'm telling you. I don't think I could have done it if they hadn't. If I had to worry what they were getting into, what they were going, where they were, what they were running around with. I didn't have that problem, you know, and he just lay there, you know, and all that, and his head went over, and I held his hand and all that. But what I know about death isn't that bad. I mean, because I was there when my mother died. Of course, they made me step out, you know, with Ronnie. I just stayed right there. Then after he died, yes, the head sister came in. I'm nothing against the Catholics, nothing. I just don't, you know. But she gets her rosary beads out, and she's standing over there, and she's going on through that, you know. And I'm sitting there. I said, "Sister, you don't have to do this." I said, because that man, was there before they took him. I don't feel that you hang around too long. I mean, that he was such a good guy. There was no way he could be any place but where he should be.
Yeah.
That's the way I looked at it.
All right. Well, do you think we've talked enough for now?
Well, it's up to you.
I got good news and bad news for you.
Huh?
We're only halfway through.
Oh.
So we're going to have to do this again, but I think we should probably take a break and probably do this when we get up to Meadville.
All right.
You want to do that? Or would you rather just get it all done this week sometime?
It's up to you.
Well, no, I'm leaving it up to you.
All I have to do is comb my hair and they